Hey guys and gals, I know light's a little different out here. It's because the outside light is next door to my house. So there's something that's been on my mind for a little bit. I want to talk to you about it, and I think it's important that people um, understand this because it coincides with a lot of the videos I've been posting lately, and it's a very interesting story. There has been, a lot of times that most of my life that I've been proving that investigations or anything that has to do with the paranormal is demonic. There is one circumstance that happened to me that I still can't explain, but I still believe it is demonic, and I'll tell you why, so stick around.
And now we interrupt, disrupt, and crash this station.
The man fighting for peace, his legacy, truth in a sea of stupid.
Filtered for your sarcastic enjoyment, Ghostgetter.
I would actually say two circumstances, but there's only one I want to talk about. Years ago when I was a teenager and I moved here to Texas, it was one of those times where I didn't know anybody. It was a totally different culture, didn't have friends, didn't have anything basically. So I spent a lot of time, and when you move to a small town from a big city in a different state that had like totally different cultures, it was a little rough. So I spent a lot of time walking around town, and I was alone, didn't know anybody. It was real frustrating for the first year or two. The typical things that a lot of people go through. I was 15 at the time, but then as time went on and a year or 2 years went by, there was a friend that I met. There's actually two great ones, but one in particular taught me some things in life, because at the time I was a real wimp. I didn't have the gall to speak out. I don't have like today I have no filter. I was depressed all the time or negative all the time, and I had a habit of looking down at the ground and not at people's eyes. My sense of security and confidence in myself was really bad. But when I met him, what he taught me was to change all that. There were times he'd tell me to stop looking at the ground, different things like that. Never had a real girlfriend in my life, never met any girls. Girls didn't want to have nothing to do with me because I was, negative and had no security at all, or the word for it, So he tried to change my mind on that. So there was one particular day when I was really bad. One day I believe my self-esteem was at an all-time low. My confidence was horrible, and that was probably my most negative. And so I had suicidal thoughts. And I remember talking to him walking down the street, and he said that, and I never realized how hard it hit me. But I remember telling him that no one will ever show up to my funeral. And he got angry. And he told me that, even though he had a lot of friends himself, he had girls all over him, that sort of thing. He said no one liked him either. Do you think people would ever show up at my funeral? And then he said, would you ever show up at my funeral? Of course, I said, of course. And he said he would too. So I think that's what upset him, is the fact that he, in his own mind, thinking that he would never show up to mine by saying no one ever show up to my funeral. And I understand now how that would make a person angry. And of course, one of the biggest things he tried to do is help me find girlfriends, or help me get dates, or, have girls like me, and tried to teach me how to, I wouldn't say pick them up, but, be more confident in asking them out and be more confident in going up to them and talking to them. And because I was not good at that, he was an expert at that, but I was not good at that. So he was very good at trying to, he would always, even when I wasn't looking, trying to get me a girlfriend or trying to get me to talk to somebody when I didn't want to. And I think that's one of the things I was so upset about that day is no one would talk to me or have anything to do with me. And I think that's what started the conversation, and that's what bothered me as much. And that's what the whole thing was about. We made this pact that kind of was in the back of my mind for years, that a promise that whoever died first, we would promise to be there at their funeral, just in case no one showed up. We had other things in mind, but they were not important. I remember making this promise to him and him making the promise to me and so on and so forth. And it was an interesting thing that I always kept in my life, a promise that I promised I would always keep. In the back of my mind, it was one of those things that it stayed there, but as time rolled on, I kind of forgotten about it. It wasn't really forgotten. It was just one of those things where you just put it aside, because he lived on for years and I lived on for years, and we kind of lost each other over time because I moved to Dallas, and he went his own way and I went my own way, and so on and so forth. I had my own situations in my lifetime, and that's the story there. But starting another story, and I'm going to connect the two together. Here's another story that's really creepy and really odd that I've always had happen to me since the late 90s. I'll connect it to later. Late in the 90s, I was living in a house that had problems, and I know it was demonic. But anyway, I'm not going to get into a long story of things that happened there because it happened for almost 2 years. But what started it all was one night I was waking up and I was having issues, and it felt like somebody was staring at me. That's what I have issues. But it felt like somebody was staring at me, and I could not sleep. And every time I woke up, it was almost like somebody was standing there. And, as if you feel irritated because people just keep looking at you. And it was one of those situations where I just could not sleep. I wake up and I complain. And, living girlfriend at the time asked me what the deal is. And I told her that for some reason I just cannot sleep. And it feels like somebody just staring at me, and it just keeps me from sleeping. It just irritates me. Well, about that time, when I had that, is when my a couple of weeks later, or whatever, my niece died, was killed in a car accident. Well, after that situation, every time something bad happens to somebody I know, or somebody that I'm close to, or just somebody I know that's a regular person in my life, I seem to have these issues. And I've had them for years. The same thing happened when I kept waking up one night, and it felt like, again, somebody was staring at me. And I just couldn't sleep because I'd wake up again, and I just can't shake it, and I can't fall asleep because I could swear what's keeping me awake is the fact that I wake up and it's almost like someone would stop looking at me, and I had, this happened more than once, but another particular time it happened the next day. I got a phone call in the morning, and I heard that a guy that I worked with, he was another baker, got hit by a car and was killed. Manager called me and told me. So it was a guy that I was around regularly and talked to quite often. So that would happen quite a bit over the years. And the most recent was about a year and a half ago with somebody that we knew. But anyway, long story short, kind of, in 2002 or in 2003, right before I got married, I was trying to find this friend of mine again. And the reason I wanted to find this friend of mine again was because for years, or for a long period of time, he was trying to get me to, he was trying to teach me how to act, and, as far as be more of a confident in myself, and not be so nice, and so on and so forth. And when I was around 29, 30 years old, I started to use his, what he showed me, what he taught me, what he told me about myself, and how to not be so negative, and how to be more confident in myself, and not, and all that. I started to use that. So around 30 years old, 31 years old, after I broke up with my live-in, I started to meet more women, started to date more and things like that, because I had forced myself literally to have better self-esteem, better confidence, treat myself better, to not be the way I am because of him. So when I finally, the day that the weekend I was going to get married, or it was a week later, a week before I got married, we came here to Dallas, and I was at my brother's house. We came here to visit, and this was no particular reason. I was living in Lubbock, but I came here to visit. But we stayed in his guest room, and for some reason I could not sleep. I was having these issues again. I even told her that I don't know what it is that's bothering me, but every time I wake up, it feels like I'm being stared at. And she asked me why, and I said, well, you know why. I just feel like something bad's about to happen, or something bad just happened. And this was on a Saturday. So I just blew it off, because I haven't heard anything, nothing bad happened, but I was worried that somebody I knew was going to, something bad. But when I got to Lubbock that weekend, maybe it was I can't remember the timeline, but it was close to a week, between me getting married and this happening. It was around that time. All I know is when I got back to Lubbock and I was sitting in the bedroom, she said she was going to take a shower, and I was sitting on the bed, and I saw someone out of the corner of my eye, because the door was open, but I saw someone plain as day walk by. Didn't even look at me. Didn't even stare at me through the door. It was almost like they were looking straight ahead. They walked by, and it was slow. They walked by and didn't open the door, nothing like that. They walked toward my stepkid's room. That's where they walked. But it was silent. It was almost like you heard no footsteps, you heard nobody walking, you heard no clothes rustling. But he walked normally toward my stepkid's room. So around that time, a week before I got married, I told my future wife what had happened, and she said, well, who did he look like? I said, he looked like Shane, which is a friend of mine at the time, the one from Paris. I told her she looked like him, or he looked like him. Same hair, same and all that. But I saw him out of the corner of my eye. I didn't see him face to face. So not a day or two after that, I get a phone call. And like I said, this was Sunday night, Saturday night. This is probably Sunday, because we come back from Dallas. And I'm looking for the other friend that I was talking about beginning. I had two great friends. And I was looking for him because I wanted to talk to Shane. Because I wanted to thank him because I was getting married in a week. And if it wasn't for, what he told me, what he showed me or taught me, whatever thing, him and Shane, both, because they both had two different things that I needed. I've gotten a hold of his wife, I believe, because this is before Skype and Facebook. I think MySpace was around or something, but I got his email because I couldn't find him either. And I got a hold of his wife, and she told me that he needed to speak to me. So I got a hold of him. I called him, and he told me that he saw on the news that the friend of mine, well, we were all friends, Shane, had been killed in a car accident. It totally blew me away because here I am in Lubbock. I'm 500 miles away from Paris, probably further. And it totally devastated me to the point where I had these feelings I never thought I ever had, such as the funeral incident came back to me. I sat on the back steps in my backyard for an hour or two thinking about the promise I made to get to his funeral, but here I am 500 miles away, didn't have enough money, didn't have the means or the funds or trust even the vehicle to go there. So I was disappointed in myself. And I thought to myself, this is weird because of what I saw that night. And it was around the time that a week before I got married. So personally, I think it was demonic. Personally, I think it was a way to really get the things out of me that I never thought I had, to bring that depression back, to bring that horrible feeling back, the self-esteem issues, the thoughts, and then the fact that I couldn't get to the funeral really bothered me. And I think that maybe it was an image they created, something they did to bring out something that was so deep in my brain that I'd put back there for so long, and they brought it out, and it was a weakness that I never thought I had. That would be the only thing I could say, because that and one other situation that has nothing to do with this happened, but that's the only time that I can explain why. Well, I can pretty much know why, but I can't explain the rest of it. It was a strange time. I knew something bad was going to happen. I knew I had problems with sleeping that night, and it was very odd that I saw that sitting on the bed before anyone told me that it was killed in a car accident, before anyone even, mentioned anything. It was a very, very odd time in my life, and I'm sure maybe it was a way for them to try to convince me that dead people come back, and all that. Who knows? Their answer is why, but I know what happened. And so, in the end, what I do say, putting the stories together and stuff like that. By the way, this was on a Saturday, the same night that I was having issues sleeping. It was on a Saturday night, and it was the same Saturday that he passed away. So my point is, they're easy to get to me. It doesn't take much for them to come after me for one reason or another. I can't do investigations like other people can. I can't get into the paranormal like other people can because there's a lot of deception out there. It is very easy for them to come after me for anything. They still do. But I know what it is. I know what they're doing, and I know a lot about stuff, and I know how dangerous it is. So I know that it's getting worse. I know there are people out there that their weaknesses are being attacked a lot more than ever before. I know more people are getting angrier than ever before. I've lost friends that I've had for decades over stupid things like politics. These people do not care about you. They're just out for themselves. And most people they completely are acting as if they've never acted before in their lives. They're willing to do things that cost their lives, that cost their families, and put other people in danger, there is no reason to sacrifice your life, your family, your friends over certain things that are going on in the world, and they are so easy to attack you. They have been, they've got me angry. They've gotten me involved in this stupidity and some of the things that I shouldn't have been involved with. I lost friends over it. I've been on both sides of the coin. I've seen both sides be attacked. I've seen both sides bad things happen to them. I've watched too much and seen too much to see people acting the way they do, and people are acting out of character like it's no tomorrow. People acting angry like they never have before. Becoming people they've never have. And it's heartbreaking. I shake my head constantly more than ever. I see what's coming. I see what's going to happen, and it frightens me. I've been trained and taught since day one about things that are going to happen. I have been frightened of seeing this and hearing about this and this going on. Oh man, that day would just be, I just can't imagine living in those days. And now I'm starting to see all the things that I feared when I was young. All those things, I'm starting to see it. And I get on here to do YouTube videos, not to be an a-hole. I have a filter because, no filter, because sometimes people, you have to get things through people's heads because they refuse to listen. But I'm trying, in the end, I'm trying to help. I'm trying to give a different perspective, because you see the same thing over and over and over again, but you don't see results. And when you don't see results, it's because it's a lie. If it's too good to be true, it probably isn't. It's just we need to be careful, because everything now, we are all treading on thin ice, and it doesn't take much you to say anything, and for that, for those entities to come around and make this person more angry than ever before, and this person pulls out a gun and shoots somebody or kills somebody, and then later realizes, this is not how I am. This is totally out of character. I would have never done this 3 months ago or 2 months ago. When I thought about it, this is something I would have never done or even thought of, but now it's too late. And people are dying out there because of anger. People are killing each other out there because of anger. People are doing things they've never done before because of anger. I am having some very bad dreams of things that I do not want to talk about. And this is why I'm here. I'm trying to help. I'm not trying to hurt. I'm trying to help. That is why I'm here. And it may be boring, and it may not suit your YouTube video watching and things like that, and I'm sorry it doesn't, but we need to think. We need to think, people, because these are things that I was having problems with over a long period of time. Not so close together, but now I'm starting to have them constantly, not long periods of time. They are out of their cages. I can feel it, I can smell it, and I know for a fact it won't take much to do something stupid and get them to come out and do what they do. That's why I don't play this game that these paranormal people do, or these TV shows do, or things like that, because there will be a time when the leash will be let loose and they're going to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. So just be careful, people. It's a dangerous world out there, and I wouldn't want anything to happen to anyone. I'm frightened. Well, I shouldn't be frightened, but I am. So take care, people. There'll be more videos later, and I hope you'll keep watching and subscribe, because that's all I'm trying to do is just help out. So until next time, see ya.